Hello everyone out there in internet land. Happy President's Day if you're in the United States. If not, well, happy day. This is the recap Q&A show. That's the show where I get questions from last week and answer them, hopefully in an intelligent manner. I'm also sharing links that have accumulated on Facebook down below in the description. So if you're just interested in that, check those out. Not a lot visually happening, so if you want to tab away and do something else, think of this as a podcast, which you can listen to while you drive to work, as some people do, or it's President's Day, so maybe you're not driving to work, but hopefully you find something in this show of interest. Last week, as many of you know, I released my latest short film, Conversation Hearts. The idea was I was trying to do a holiday themed show so that I could release something around a holiday. I was curious to see if that would spike views, or if people, tie into something people were searching for on YouTube. However, for this to work, I believe you must release your holiday-themed movie, show, whatever it is, at least a week before the actual holiday. I released Conversation Hearts approximately 30 minutes after Valentine's Day had ended, so that was a failure on my part to try this experiment, because I obviously did not even come close to releasing it in the proper time window. Part of that was poor planning on my part, and I was behind, but I still wanted to get it released, and so I did. Thank you for all of you out there who watched it and gave me comments and feedback. I really appreciate it. As always, very much appreciate your patronage to this channel and all the views that you give my work. Very much appreciated. If you're interested on how that short was made or the elements about it, if you're curious, I always like to do a making of episode to share with people the things that I learned, because I'm always learning something. I'm a constant student of this stuff, not an expert by any means, and I did learn a lot on this shoot, as I did with many others. One of the most important things, one thing I wanted to do was to start making frugal filmmaker films, meaning everything that goes into these short movies has to be something that I've built on this channel, or that I've acquired over the years for an affordable amount of money. I think the only thing that really violates that is my microphone, because I'm using a $400 Sennheiser microphone, which I bought a long time ago, and that I still have and still works really well. It's a really good microphone. But anyway, everything else was things that I built: light stands, tripod dolly, frugal slate, all that stuff, which you'll see in a making of video that I'll feature in a couple weeks. Like no C-stands were allowed. My gaffer had a one of those really nice Kinoflo fluorescent tube rigs. I was not allowed to use it on the set. It was lit mostly by China balls and available light and reflectors. So anyway, that's coming up in a couple weeks, so stay tuned for that. This week, let's get right to the questions and get going here. There's a comment from last week's recap Q&A video from Copy Imitation. Asks, I have some work lights, of course, so do you think one of the stands would work for the Frugal crane? I leaned a decent amount of my weight on it, and it seemed to be fine. As you probably know if you've watched my work light hacking video, where I took the work lights off of that stand, I hated that stand. Even as a light stand, it was just cheap and rickety, and yeah, even in comparison with the PVC light stands, that stand is metal. I don't know if I would trust it to hold a crane. At least the one I had was awful. If you feel like there's enough, it can hold enough weight, go for it. Try it, see what happens, let us know. But I had just a really bad experience using that thing. I wanted to get rid of it, which is one reason I actually took the lights off of the stand, because I hated it. Next up, we have a comment on the Make a PVC table dolly for under $20 from Tana Crit Goo, who says, I'm definitely going to try this out. I was wondering if there's anything I can do if I wanted a taller dolly for eye level shots. I don't recommend extending putting a PVC tube into the dolly to make it taller, because you'll introduce a lot of wobble and it'll look terrible. My advice is raise the dolly, raise the platform that you're using higher, such as get a taller table or whatever. If you want eye level dolly shots, put the table up on blocks or something. That's actually one reason that I built the trolley dolly, was to be able to put a short range dolly on a tripod so I could raise it up to eye level, because then it's portable and it can go anywhere. You don't need to drag a table with you, which is one of the disadvantages of the table dolly. You need a completely flat surface. So that's my suggestion. Again, I don't recommend putting a neck of some kind or extension tube in the table dolly. I mean, you can try it. It doesn't cost very much to put a taller piece of PVC in there. but it's going to be wobbly. I'm just telling you right now. Thanks for the question. Morley Kurt asked about the Frugal Floater. He says, if you mounted the washers on the sides of the end of the PVC pipe instead of on the end, couldn't you use that to balance the rig side to side? If you're unfamiliar with the Frugal Floater, it's basically a Steadicam Merlin knockoff. It has kind of the curved, or actually angular, tube that goes underneath it, and the gimbal's right underneath that. Anyway, check out the video. I'll leave a link to it here in an annotation, or down below also. Actually, Morley, originally I designed the rig that way, where at the bottom of the curved arm there were actually 2 spots for washers or weights on both sides of that. So I thought I could balance it that way. And it just, doing that, I could not get it to work right. It threw off the balance, or threw off the way the rig moved, where it just was like a really penduluming in a really weird fashion. So it just did not work, which was really disappointing to me because I really wanted it to work. I thought I'd come up with a good idea. And it just failed, so I had to abandon it and go the route that I came up with by putting the weight right behind the front to back platform. The good news is well, good news, I'm actually redesigning the Frugal Floater 2, coming up probably in the summer. It's going to be actually a glide cam knockoff this time, as I tried the glide cam idea before. I failed, went to the Steadicam Merlin, kind of succeeded. It works for the most part, but it's tricky, especially when trying to turn or pan. But the Frugal Floater 2 will be built on a better design. I think I have a better concept of balance with the glide cam design now, because trying to balance the floater or a Steadicam Merlin, those type of designs, I think is much trickier, because essentially it's guesswork. Where I think I've got an idea, better idea on how to balance a glide cam, because it's basically, you can take a long stick and find the balance point in the middle. You can see that it's balanced, and it's obvious. If you hold a point not in the middle, you can tell how much weight you have to have to balance it. So that's the idea. I'm focusing more on balance, on a more obvious way to balance design. So I think that'll work better. But I know some people have had a lot of success with the Frugal Floater, like it, so that's great. But I'm embarking on just a slightly different design because I want to. I don't know. Anyway, all right. Rick Thomas asks, I recently bought a few of the 5-in-1 round reflectors, and I'm having trouble coming up with a good way to mount them onto the Frugal light stands. I tried using a T, 2 elbows, another T-boom arm. Actually, I think he's talking about using a boom, extending out the Frugal light stands with a boom arm, which is mentioned in the video. But the PVC kept weighing it down too much. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm totally screwed up your question. I apologize. Another issue was clamping it onto the arm. My spring clamps would hold it, but wouldn't keep it in place. It kept rotating out of position. Just wondering if you ever use these reflectors and what you do to mount them. Hopefully a frugal method. Anytime I mount something to PVC light stands, in the video I realized I mounted a China ball to one end, but that's super unstable and hard to manage, as you found out, obviously. So what I would always do, like if I want to mount a gray card on a light stand, PVC light stand, I would just take a C47 or a clothespin, clamp the gray card or whatever right into the top of the light stand, into the open hole, the 3/4 inch hole that's on top. I haven't tried this with the reflector. I actually have one of these, one of the big ones, which is like 48 inches or something, 43 inches. But that's what I would do first, and if that didn't work, I would just get a stronger clamp, spring clamp, to go into that hole there. I'll try this. That's my first thought, because then you're not dealing with being lopsided. It's pushing all the weight to the very bottom of the stand and not off to one side. So that's what I would recommend trying. Get a small spring clamp if the C47 doesn't work, and try clamping it to the open hole at the top, just very, very top. Hopefully you haven't tried that already. Okay, Tim Link asks, in your videos I see you have an XLR box. If I ran both of my lav mics, interviewer and subject, into an XLR box connected to my camera, would the end result be a single audio track containing both voices? And if so, are the levels separately adjustable at the time of recording? Now Tim starts his email talking about how he uses double system sound, but during interviews, when he records on a separate audio recorder, in this case he's using the Tascam DR07 Mark II, then when he would put it into his editor along with the video, after a while it would drift. I agree with you. I think that you should use something like an XLR box when you're doing long interviews because your camera is going to run a long time, and even if you have the sample rates are close, or you think they're close, there could still be an issue of drift, which you're going to have to adjust in post, which stinks. I hate doing that also. So yes, I would use an XLR box like the one I have, so I can use two microphone inputs. The good news is, at least the one I use, the is it the Studio One Productions? I'll leave a link to it. XLR-PRO. So I get two inputs. Essentially, it's not only an XLR box; it's also a passive mixer. So I get two channel inputs that go right into my camcorder, and they're on separate tracks. And plus, they also have volume or input level adjustments, so I can record the level that each channel is recording at. The disadvantage I have, so yes, this will work. If I use an XLR box, you can get two separate audio levels. The problem is most camcorders will not show you stereo on your little screen. You have to have a pretty high-end camera that'll show you stereo inputs. So, like I have a Canon Vixia HFS 100, great little camcorder. But when I plug the XLR box in, I have two separate inputs. I only see one audio meter fluctuating as I hear sound, so I don't know, where. All I know is I can see both of them. They're kind of mixed into the same meter. If I bring, I can tell if I'm clipping, so I can just bring one level down that's clipping, but I can't see both levels individually, which you can on your audio recorder. And I use a Zoom H1 as a separate audio source, mostly for my short films. Because I don't want the same. If I'm going to record an interview like you were wanting to do, I would definitely use a camcorder and stick the audio right in there, so there's no audio sync issues at all, and then you don't have to, do the whole, syncing up in post, and that's a whole other step. Anyway, so yes, I would recommend using an XLR box. You just have to be aware that if you're using a less expensive camera, you're not going to be able to see both channels, the audio levels on both channels like you would in your Tascam. So just be aware of that. Okay, that's all the questions this week. Again, if you have a question for me, you want to contact me directly, I recommend the frugalfilmmaker@gmail.com. And of course, there's always the blog, thefrugalfilmmaker.com. There's the Facebook group, there's Twitter, there's YouTube. Those links are directly below the picture you're watching right now. Coming up this week, I would like to show you the fake dolly trick that I used in Conversation Hearts. That's essentially where I was able to do what looks like a curved dolly shot not using a curved dolly track. And I'll show you how to do that. You can probably figure it out if you think about it a little bit. But that's what I'm going to show you this week in a tip episode. And the following week, I'm planning on sharing the whole Conversation Hearts making of episode. Alright, so that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. If you're making anything this week, good luck. It's hard work, I realize that, but hopefully I've answered your questions, and I'll see you.